Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome along to the SFC interviews. Here with former Stevenage striker Marcus Haber today. So, first of all, how's things, Marcus? And I know you're still currently playing out. Where are you playing at the moment? At is it? I don't know how to pronounce the name. Is it Visaka?
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, Visaka. So I'm playing in the top division in Cambodia, and like you said, the team's called Visaka FC, and it's located in the capital city of Phnom Penh. So that's where I'm living. Season hasn't really started yet. I think we've played one game and then got postponed because of COVID problems. We've recently had a bit of a spike in cases, so the government's kind of shut everything down for next few weeks. So it's frustrating, but nothing you can really do.
Okay, and of course, let's jump into your time at Stevenage then. And you were signed. What was it, 2012, I believe? And so, what was it about Stevenage that made you want to make the move across to the Lamek Stadium and fly your trade over in Hertfordshire?
It was just a good opportunity at the time. I just finished playing in Scotland the year before in the SPL. So that was my first consistent run of games playing first team football. And I'd been offered a new contract at St. Johnstone, but Stevenage came with a slightly better offer, and I was just interested in living down south and sort of experiencing that part of the world and being around London. Yes, Stevenage had just come off a deep playoff run. They had a good FA Cup run as well the season before. They were rebuilding a new squad at the time, and it was just an exciting opportunity. So it was kind of a no-brainer, for someone 22, 23. It was my first, taste of football in England. So it was a good opportunity, and I took it.
And of course, you mentioned about the club just having a good playoff run just before, and even a couple of seasons before that, had just been promoted out of the conference and out of League Two as well. So, what sort of, how much was all of that playing in a factor in you signing for the club?
Yeah, it definitely played a factor. I mean, just having that sort of winning mentality throughout the club and just having recent success and building towards the future. That was sort of the the MO of Stevenage at the time. And they had a young squad. I think that season we had 13 or 14 new signings, including myself. So we had a very young roster of players. I think the average age would have been around 23, 24 anyways. So it was an exciting time. And I know they had some money to play with because I think they had just sold some big players the season before. So it was a chance to rebuild and just start a new team. So I was excited.
And of course, Gary Smith, the manager as well, a man that you know pretty well. I think you played under him again since as well.
No, I haven't, but I know Robin Schrute did when he was at Nashville. Played with him.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm quite close with Schrute. We've kept in touch over the years, but I really enjoyed Gary Smith as a manager. I thought his temperament, philosophies were the type that you want to play for as a young player, especially. We had a great dressing room. Like I said, a young team, and he gave us kind of freedom to express ourselves, and I think that's important, with managers, especially when you have a young group of players that are applying their trade. And we had an amazing chemistry. It was just sort of an up and down season the first year I was there, so it was exciting, but in the end it was probably not the way you wanted to finish the season that first year. But great dressing room, great group of boys, and we had a talented team. We just probably didn't accomplish what we probably could have.
And you mentioned there that you were good mates with Schrute. I think you actually roomed with Schrute for a bit, didn't you, as well? And what was he like as somebody that you were rooming with? Was he keeping you up all night, or was he good?
He's an amazing guy. Just football aside, he's probably one of the most honest, humble pros I've ever played with, and just amazing dude. Real great personality, great spirit, and just the type of guy you want in a football club and just want as a friend, period. And you can see that he's applying his trade coaching now, and he's had a good career. And he's just a good person. And having him within the dressing room was just the type of personality you want. He was freaking hilarious. Just always taking the piss out of people, managers, staff.
Yeah.
He was next level funny, and even when things were down, we weren't playing or out of the squad or whatever, or the team wasn't playing well, he'd always raise the morale within the group.
That's great. And we've got a comment there from Jordan. We touched on who you're playing for already, but he just wants to know who it was. So that was just a message there. But let's have a look what we got on here. So you actually made your debut for the club in the League Cup, and you almost scored as well, didn't you? You got an assist that day. It was saved by the keeper, and then I think it was Mark Roberts that put it in for the third goal. And what was that like to kind of make an impact pretty much straight away?
Yeah, I remember that game. No, that was my goal. It went in. He just claimed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a funny one, but I'll take the assist. Yeah, it was a good atmosphere. I remember it was close to selling out, and we had a really real good team, and I think we showed well in that game, and that just sort of set the standard for the start of the season. I think we all had a lot of confidence going into the beginning of the season. We had a good preseason, and I think we played against Spurs as well in the preseason. So leading up to that, yeah, it was great, and I just remember the atmosphere was fantastic at the Lamex. Great fans, to this day I remember my time there, and yeah, it was exciting. I think we had a good atmosphere, and it was a good vibe around the place. So yeah.
And Matt's put a comment in here as well, just saying, nice to see you. Dundee are one of his second team, are his second team, and I thought that you were excellent for us, meaning for them. How do you look back on your time at Dundee when you played over there in Scotland?
Yeah, I mean, I cherish my time there at the club. The first year I was there especially, kind of came in, signed, I think, a month or two into the season because I was without a club, just kind of trying to figure out what was right for me. And, just went up there, signed, I think, 5 or 6 games into the season. I think they were bottom at the time, and just got thrown right into the club. And, it worked out really well, to be honest. Just sort of the way we played as a team. Paul Hartley was the manager, and a lot of the game was kind of through me. We played very direct, and up in Scotland, that type of game can be efficient and effective. And I really enjoyed it. Had some good relationships with some of the players there. It was a good dressing room once again, and Scottish football is intense and very passionate, and the fans are great, and once again, good stadium, and just a good sort of family-orientated club. I think the staff were good, and really enjoyed the first year. The second year and a little bit in the third, things kind of changed. Managers changed, and I was out of favor a little bit, and then got back into the team, and then had some injury problems. But overall, really enjoyed it.
And Jordan's put a message there saying, "Who was your best friend at Stevenage?" Is that would that be Robin?
That's a good question. I probably have like 5 or 6 guys that I keep in touch with a lot, and that I've spent time with outside of football even to this day. So me and Shruti, we keep in touch. I obviously don't really get to see him a whole lot, but yeah, we speak on WhatsApp and FaceTime every once in a while. But like the guys I'm probably in touch with the most are Darius Charles, Bonds and Gala, Lucas Akins, and Patrick Aguiman. Like we've all got a group chat together, and the boys have come to see me in Canada a few times in the summers and stuff, and we've met up, and we're all quite close and all quite like-minded, and it's good to keep in touch and just see how they're doing. So that team, I've definitely kept some friendships.
And Lucas is still doing very, very well. He's gone on, he's playing at Burton. He's become a Burton legend, really, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah, we were just talking about that the other day in the group chat, actually. I think I read a stat somewhere that he's played the 3rd or 4th amounts of minutes in the last 2 or 3 seasons in all the top 4 flights of football in England. So, credit to him. He's always been like a really, really good professional, never injured, takes care of his body, and just consistent performer. I think, he's been with Burton for, two promotions. They went from League 2 to the Championship. They played up there for a few seasons, and he's just a good pro and consistent, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on to play another 200 games for them, man. He's a machine.
And so we've touched on Lucas a little bit there, but let's go back to your first goal that you scored for the club was away at Coventry, or the first one that they've credited you with anyway, and that was to score the winner that day. And how important was it to make a mark really, and to obviously get off the mark there? It took a little while to get your first goal, although you're claiming that you got it in your first game, so might be
Right. Yeah, I remember that game. It was on Sky, so that was a big game. I think Coventry were one of the, up around the top as well as us at the time. So they had some good players. I think McGoldrick was playing up front for them. I think he might have scored against us.
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we just fought back into the game. We had a really direct style of play as well, and I think I came on that game. I don't think I started, and that was just sort of my welcome to the league, I guess. Scored off a set piece. It was a header. And, big 3 points. And that was kind of, a weight off my shoulders, to get your first credited official goal. And then you can get rolling and just the confidence. And, we started that season really, really well. I think we went unbeaten for the first 11 or 12 games, I want to say. Yeah, it was a good few months.
And I think actually that goal and that win, I think we went up to about third in the table at that point as well, if I believe correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, we started really well, we won some games late. I think a lot of those games were kind of 90th minute, 85th minute goals, equalizers or winners and stuff. And that was just kind of our mentality. We always felt like we could score goals, and we had a very well-rounded attack. I don't think anyone scored more than 10, but we had 6 or 7 guys around 7 or 8 goals for the season. So it was evenly dispersed.
And you said you don't think there was many there, or any there that got more than 10. Danny Lopez, I think, got all of his in one game, didn't he, against Sheffield United at home?
Yeah, he had a hat trick, I think, that game. And I played up front with him, and he's one of those guys that was just very technically skilled and had that bit of flair where he could score a wonder goal. But I think when he first came to the club, I think he was a bit unfit and kind of not really up to the physical standards that the gaffer wanted for the speed of play and stuff. But once he went on loan, got his fitness, and he came back that season, he was brilliant, man. He scored some real good goals, and he was a good player, very good player. I remember that. It was a good game.
And I think he scored a hat-trick for Barnet on loan the week before as well. So I think he scored 6 goals in about 6 days or something. Yeah.
So, that's what it's like when you're a striker sometimes. When when you're in a good run of form, the net seems a lot bigger than it is sometimes. So, he was on fire, and just a good lad as well. Didn't speak a whole lot of English, but just always, had a great energy and, a lot of flair.
And of course, you went on and scored a couple of goals for the club. I think you got 7, I believe, in your first season. And are you the kind of player and striker that would set yourself a target of how many you'd want to get per year?
I think every player just wants to get into double digits. I think that's kind of, where you want to be. Obviously, you don't always get there, but I've always prided myself on bringing more to the game than just goals. Whether it's assists, whether it's linking the play and just taking a lot of, the physical, abuse and space, so, other teammates can get goals and play off of me and stuff. And that's always been a part of my game that probably goes a bit unnoticed sometimes, but I think, by fans, but managers and teammates definitely appreciate it. So if I get my flowers from the people around me that are, offer me contracts and playing with me, then that's all that matters to me.
And of course, you scored another very important goal as well, the winner against Brentford at home. And to see those sides going on, and there's a number of sides that were in that division that have gone on and now, Championship. There's a few that are Premier League in the likes of Sheffield United and Bournemouth were Premier League up until last season as well. I think we played them, didn't we? I believe, and there were some real good teams in that league that year.
Yeah, it just goes to show that the English pyramid, is very competitive. You have teams that get promoted 2 seasons in a row. It's not uncommon at all. So just goes to show the quality. In League One, Championship, right up to the Premier League. So it's always good to score. And I remember most of my goals for Stevenage, and that was a big one because I remember we hadn't won for a while, and we had a bad run of games. That was towards the end of the season, and it was just nice to give the fans something to feel good about, and beating the team that I think they might have been up around the top of the league at the time. So it was a big result, and always nice to score in front of your fans.
And of course, there's a couple of questions here in regards to certain teammates as well. Luke Freeman being one of them, and he was a fantastic talent, wasn't he? He went on and he was sold for good money himself. And what was he like to play, alongside? I'm sure, to know that you're going to be getting assisted by him, you got quite a lot of opportunities to score in the game then.
Yeah, Luke was, a player that had tons of ability. I mean, just when I came to the club, I had heard about him and seen some of the goals he had scored the season before. And he just had, great 1v1 ability to get a half yard of space, whether it was to get a shot or put a cross in. But the biggest thing was just his trajectory from when I got there. I think from his standards, this first season I was there probably wasn't his best. And then the second season he was on fire. I mean, I think as a club we didn't do well, but he was, the best player by far. I think that year when we got relegated, and you just saw him kind of go on to bigger and better things. And when he goes to, I think it was Bristol, and then to QPR, and it just goes to show that he had a vision and belief in himself, because the talent was always there, and he just some kind of ability, great left foot, and just that ability to go by a player and get a shot off. He was an impressive player.
And of course, there was Mark Roberts there, who we touched on earlier, and he was captain at the time, wasn't he, as well, Robbo? So, what was he like as a leader and sort of around the dressing room?
Yeah, he was probably the piece of the team that we didn't have a lot of as a young team. He was obviously experienced, been at the club for a while, and was just ultimate pro. And I remember he had an insane diet. Always, I remember him bringing like almonds and nuts to the side of the pitch that he would like refuel during a session and stuff. And he was just always in a sports science. And when you're 22, 23 years old, you don't really appreciate that. But now that I'm 30 plus, I can see that why he's been in the game for so long and consistently been playing and captain at most clubs he's been at. So he was another guy, great pro, and a good leader throughout.
And Matt's put a comment in here in regards to when you were playing at Dundee again. He says he believes you scored a goal in a 3-1 defeat against Hibs. And how does that feel to have a great individual game but then still end up losing when you've done your bit?
That's an interesting question for a striker, because at the end of the day you're trying to score, and that goals are what's going to get you moves. Goals are going to get you accolades and looked at by the clubs, or just that's what you're judged on essentially by the casual fan or scout or coach. So it's a weird one. You always want to win, but at the end of the day, like if you score, you're thinking, okay, I've done my job, so it doesn't hurt as much. A lot of people wouldn't say that, but that's just the truth. If you score a goal, you feel like you did your job. But most importantly, you want 3 points. But if you're not going to get 3 points, you want to make sure you've scored or done your job. So that's the best answer I can give.
That's fair enough. And yes, Laura, it is. So what have we got on here now? Yeah, so of course we've got to touch on the fact that Michael Felicitas was in that side as well. Of course, he's sadly no longer with us anymore. He lost his battle with mental health, didn't he? And how important is it for players to be able to look after that side of their game as well?
Yeah, I think that kind of goes untouched, not really talked about enough, especially in English football in general. I think if you ask most players who have been in football at all, they'll tell you that they've had, battles with themselves and been in dark places, because at the end of the day, like it's difficult to play in England. It's difficult to go through, the stresses and the personal battles, because it can be tough. You got to have thick skin, and like especially in football as well. Like if you're in a place where you're playing football and that's your identity as a person, and if you get released or you're without a club, you can lose yourself sometimes if you completely put your whole makeup and being into football and sort of lose yourself. So I think it's important to just be able to be transparent and have a good core group of people around you, and just as men being able to talk about when you're not okay, and just having a group of friends and family that you can open up to and be a bit vulnerable sometimes. And I don't think that's talked about or given enough space in football. I think, as football is a lot of the time we're expected to be, these hard men that never have, never have downs and are always sort of mentally focused. And, we're all human beings at the end of the day. And I think, footballers are no different.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, completely agree with that as well. And of course, you also played in there alongside Robbie Rogers as well, who's also had his own difficulties and his own things to overcome in football as well. And how important is it for, just complete equality in the game now?
Yeah, I think that goes for anything, not even just football, but in life. I think, we should be accepting of all people in terms of what their gender, race, sexuality is. Who cares? I mean, I think in football that's something that was probably a big step for him to come out. And I don't think it would have made a difference in our dressing room, to be honest. Even though he did, I don't think he came out when he was at Stevenage. But I think you've seen a lot of progression now in sport, and I think that's important to homophobia, racism, any of that. I forget football. I just think in society, we need to do better, and we need to sort of educate ourselves. I think it's the biggest thing, be able to talk and understand and ask questions without, being ignorant.
Yeah, 100%. And Laura's put a question in there as well, saying, what was your best memory from your time at Stevenage?
Best memory? I'm trying to think. That's a good question. I think that you touched on. I think the Brentford at home was probably up there, just because it was at the end of the game and we were on a bad run of form, and it was just good to sort of do that for the fans. That was a good moment. And I remember my second season when we played against Everton away.
In the Carabao Cup, I think it is.
I think we took him the extra time, almost got a result, and that was a good experience, just because I didn't play in that game, but just to be in that atmosphere and just see how the boys did and stuff. And I think that was a big moment, so that was exciting.
Okay, so there were some really good games. The Everton one, I think did we play them twice that season? Did we play them in the FA Cup and the League Cup as well?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we've also, what have we got on here? So we touched on that Capital One game. And of course, we knocked out Ipswich, another championship side to get there as well. And we also knocked out Doncaster in the FA Cup. And then, I'm pretty sure we played Everton twice in both competitions after that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's always nice to get a result in the cups against a team, that's a division above you or with a bigger budget and stuff. And that's kind of, what the cup's all about. I think, just giving the higher divisions a sort of, a bit of how you doing, like we can compete with you and anything can happen, so that's what it's all about for sure.
And then, so we've got, let's have a look on here. So we've touched on when you left the club. So what's it like to play for a club? Is it any different playing for a club that's only, 5 years old than a club that's, sort of might be a sort of a lot, or quite a fair bit older than that? Or is it still kind of, you don't pay much attention to that side of it?
I mean, I think you can't really compare clubs that don't have a history and do. I think there's the UK and England is just a different animal in terms of culture and fan base and just overall support. So you have that deep-rooted history and just that investment from the community and the club, so that you can feel that right when you arrive. Here it's still exciting because football is the biggest sport here, and they do love their football. They're very passionate about it here in Cambodia. And yeah, they make a big deal about it, and it's cool because with the roster rules here, you're allowed 5 foreigners in each team, so it's kind of like you have a very eclectic mix of players, management, and staff. So you're having players from all over the world mixed in with Cambodians, so it's like a big melting pot of culture. And yeah, I've learned a lot since I've been here, and I've enjoyed the preseason and being able to play games. I'm just kind of waiting for the season to start up again because it's been a really stop-start the last month and a half, but I've enjoyed it.
And of course, you play for your country as well for Canada, and got a couple of goals for Canada as well, didn't you? I think you got 3 or 4 goals for Canada. And what's the buzz like around being able to step out and play for your country and have an impact by scoring a couple of goals as well?
Yeah, I mean, I always cherished playing for my country. It was always a really, really great experience, getting capped and playing in a couple World Cup qualifiers and Gold Cups is always something that I probably took it for granted a bit at the time, just because when you're in it, a lot of the times you don't really think about what you've just been a part of or what you've accomplished or whatever. But looking back, I'm very proud to be able to represent my country and, like you said, score a few goals against some decent teams. And yeah, got to see the world, see some countries, and play in some stadiums against some players that never would have thought that I would have been in that position. So yeah, definitely always an honor to represent my country, for sure.
And of course, at the moment, of course, over here in the UK, all of the games are being played behind closed doors. And is that something that you've got a bit of experience in yourself? And what's it like to play in a very important game, but then not have the fans there supporting you as well?
Yeah, it was a lot different, a lot more bizarre than what you'd actually expect. I mean, just because I think when you have fans involved, it can give you that extra bit of adrenaline, give you that extra bit of fire. And without that, you kind of have to manufacture it yourself. You got to, dig deep and sort of bring your own atmosphere. And I think it makes the games different in terms of like how they're refereed as well, and how the flow of game can be influenced just by people screaming or yelling. Because a lot of times when you're playing in front of a big crowd, you can barely hear yourself. But with no fans, you can hear everyone. And yeah, it makes it almost more personal, because you can hear people talking, you can have a bit of dialogue with the other team and stuff, and it just makes it, in that sense, almost more personal and a bit more intense. But it's just a different type of atmosphere, really. Like it's more so just all on the players.
All right, and then of course, I don't know how much you're following Stevenage at the moment as a club. I don't know if you've been able to follow them upon leaving and stuff like that. And of course, Alex Revell's in charge now, and of course, last season the club struggled and were kept up by a default with Macclesfield and their situation. And this season, Alex Revell has really turned the corner, and the club are in a much better and stronger position.
Yeah, no, I always kind of keep track of clubs I used to play with and just see where they're at. And yeah, it's nice to see them sort of turn a corner. I know they had a rough few years there, and but yeah, no, it looks like they've on the right place of getting back into league football, and hopefully in a year or two they can be back up there in League 2 or League 1 where I think they belong.
Well, they're currently playing League 2 at the moment, so mid-table League 2. So then potentially, yeah, you never know. With next season, they might be able to push on and get into the playoffs, back up to League 1 again, which would be a great achievement. And of course, the club, have always been very big in the community side of things as well, and they've been very active during the coronavirus pandemic and out there supporting sort of local people around Stevenage and surrounding areas as well. And that's huge as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's been a tough year for everyone. And, when you have, the club giving support and, reaching out to the community in any way, shape that they can, I think it just says a lot about the club. And Stevenage was always a club that you could see was, close to the communities around them. And it's a club that's easy to root for. So it's good to see that, they're making do the best they can and trying to keep positivity in a tough time.
Definitely, yeah. And so we've got, let's have a look on here now. So who were your sort of own personal role models growing up, and what club do you support and follow as well?
Well, as far as football goes, Thierry Henry was a player I always looked at when I was a kid and just wanted to be just like him. You know, he was on fire at that time when I was sort of getting serious about football. That was sort of like the Invincibles, that sort of 2001 to 2005. I think he was one of the best players in the world. So yeah, I used to watch Arsenal. I think the Premier League was just a little bit more exciting and a bit more, a bit more physical, and just there was a bit more passion back then. And I just sort of loved watching football and just sort of the way that, people sort of carried their emotions. Another sportsman I looked up to was Kobe Bryant, just, for obvious reasons. I think he was.
I was going to get into that as well, because actually you were quite, as well as football, you're into basketball and baseball as well, and also into your rapping as well, into your music. So like you said, I think there's a lot more to myself than just football. I grew up in North America, so you're kind of exposed to everything. So I played baseball, football, and basketball growing up. So Kobe was someone that I really looked up to, just as more than an athlete, just sort of his mentality and what he represented as a person. And just even since he's passed, you can see what he meant to sport and what he meant to other people, and just you hear the stories about the way he worked in the off seasons and how he took care of himself and how he always wanted to improve. And I think as athletes, we can all take a little bit away from him and just try and learn and implement that to our own lives. Yeah, definitely. And so let's have a look in regards to that. So we've always put in regards to the football side of it there. We touched on playing for your country earlier as well. So pretty much just one more question, really, and that's in regards to Stevenage, getting themselves out there and recognised now with the deal with Burger King and, going out and improving the stadium now as well to a full capacity. And how important is it for Stevenage to be able to, give themselves the best possible chance of competing against, some of the London sides that are up there, the Arsenals, the Chelseas, the Tottenhams, and likes like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it. You hit the nail on the head. I think we live in an era where, we need to take advantage of all outlets that we have, whether it's sponsorship, social media, and just sort of all sort of outlets so you can sort of grow your brand and grow the club. You see that in other sports, basketball especially. It's more than just a game. It's entertainment, it's fashion, it's merchandise, and I think football's sort of finally getting it that, there's way more ways to generate revenue and interest in a sport. So it's good to see Stevenage taking advantage.
All right. And of course, you're still playing, as we touched on earlier. So when's your season going to be starting again? Have you got any ideas or?
That's a good question. Hopefully after these 2 weeks, we're in a mandatory countrywide lockdown right now, so no one will be really leaving their houses unless it's to get food or medication for the next 2 weeks. So we won't be training as a team. It'll be sort of personal gym routines and stuff. But hopefully, the corona situation will calm down and more people will get vaccinated. And hopefully 2 or 3 weeks. Fingers crossed that the league will resume and I'll finally get to be able to get some actual football played, some actual games.
All right, and I just want to touch on obviously the music as well. The sort of is it hip hop and sort of rap music that you were sort of into? Were you producing? Was it?
I used to produce beats and I used to rap myself a little bit when I was like 16 till about 22. So yeah, I had a few little mixtapes that I would circulate and I had some music online, but that was a long time ago. So
you can't find it these days now. I can't find it on SoundCloud or on YouTube or nothing, no?
No, it's all on my laptop. So that'll be in my personal archives. I don't
put it out there,
no. I've moved on to football.
Fair enough. All right, well, I'll let you go. And of course, big game for Arsenal later as well in the Europa League. So what do you reckon in regards to that? I know it's obviously not related to Stevenage, but it's huge for Arteta and for Arsenal, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, especially with how they've performed in the league, I think they want to do well in the European competitions, and yeah, it's a big match, and I think they got a chance.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. So thanks for joining today or tonight for you now, and I'll let you go and enjoy your evening.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks a lot, mate.
Take care.
Cheers. You